Back on with this entire hypocrisy, especially with the West, ladies and gentlemen. When there is a protest in India or something happens, they all wax eloquent trying to tell India how a democracy should function. When it comes to their own doorstep, remember Canada imposed emergency so that there could be a fervent crackdown. Now, British Parliament and the UK is now thinking about or mulling about a law that could stop the protests even before they start. So let's understand their overall hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. What the UK said when it came to India. British MPs in Parliament condemned India for its treatment of the farmer protests at home. They also wanted discussions in Parliament about this. They are now at home set to pass a law to crack down on blockades and protests. Canada. PM Justin Trudeau said he stood with peaceful protesters. At home, he stopped the truckers' protests, said no right to block roads, imposed emergency. He had to run away from capital to hide. Germany on India batted for UN role on Kashmir situation and spoke to Pakistan. At home, they have pledged tough approach against enemies of the state. They are also on the verge of a huge police crackdown on a protesting village because they want to explore a mine and they want to try and dig into the earth there for resources and minerals. So they want to evacuate an entire village. The locals are protesting and there is hard police action happening in Germany for the same. So free speech hypocrisy, does it not stand out? Is it not exposed? Let's go across to our guest, Kuldeep Singh Shekhawat, Director, MATV. Adit Kothari, Founder, Indic Society. Abhijit Majumdar, Consulting Editor, First Post. Namaste, Jai Hind, and thank you very much for joining us. Now, Adit, let me start with you. What does this mean? Isn't the West hypocrisy exposed? The next time they try and lecture another nation, should you not tell them, please? Thank you very much.
I mean, Anandji, to be honest, West's hypocrisy and duplicity has been exposed a long time ago. I think the ball was always on our court to call them out for this hypocrisy, which we have failed miserably. During the farmers' protest, as you just outlined, there was a lot of hue and cry from the Western prism of things. British MPs, typically Tan Desi. From Canada, there were other people, who were making a lot of noise about how India was essentially, acting against dissenters, or rather, so-called dissenters against the state. But when it comes down to them, they were found wanting exactly what they were essentially raising their voice against. Justin Trudeau, as you mentioned, was a classic case. What's happening in the UK now with this bill, with this controversial bill, as I would like to say, because there are bills already existing within the realms of the Constitution which give police enough power to act. So there are acts like the Highway Act or the Malicious Damage Act or the Road Traffic Act, and these acts can be used to essentially impose and prevent and stop and ensure that they can raise the cost of people causing damage to public property. However, they want to extend those powers and to draconian measures to people now protesting against high inflation rates and and rates of bills and services increment. So the UK, Britain, US, Canada, they've all demonstrated extreme amount of duplicity and hypocrisy when it comes to dealing with their own issues, but they will always come and lecture India on how India should tackle their dissenters, whether it be the farmers' bill protest or anything to do with Kashmir.
Now, look at what Rishi Sunak says, Mr. Shekhawat. The right to protest is a fundamental principle of our democracy, but it is not absolute. A balance must be struck between rights of individuals and the rights of the hard-working majority to go about their day-to-day business.
Right.
So, how is it that when a British Prime Minister says it, it's okay? But if PM Narendra Modi were to say the same thing, oh my God, what is he saying?
Well, as you have mentioned earlier also, it's a case of who likes what. So their own turf is very, very simple. They want to play the ball the way they want to play. They don't want to play the ball the way we want to play it. So simple as that. The laws for the farmers in India, but there were no laws actually. We had just put them on the corner of Delhi and they were peacefully protesting. We had not told them, we never told them to get lost, so there was no police firing, there was nothing. Here in UK now, from now on, police will get extensive powers to not only block them right from the word go, they will block them even before the protest starts. They can tell them, sorry, we are not permitting you to have a protest. On top of that, if multiple cases of protest will happen, then they will have some record on their system. They will not get a government job. Those people will not be given a clearance. So all these things are coming into play now because these people have now realized that freedom of speech, freedom of protest, freedom of XYZ is not taking them anywhere. The British system is collapsing on that side. So now they are coming with this law, and this law is really, really tough. India should not be bothered about the laws what UK does with their law. We are a sovereign democracy. We have a wonderful parliament. We have a wonderful leader, and we should be working the way we want to work in our country. We should not be even listening to the West. You see, you still remember, do you remember our External Affairs Minister saying in one of the press conferences, West's problem is world's problem. That is not accepted anymore. Quite simple as that.
Correct.
We should work the way we want to work. Let Britain work the way they want to work.
No,
Simple as that.
No, but the fact is that we have such a self-deprecating attitude about ourselves, Abhijit Majumdar, as I welcome you here into the debate, that we are always looking for ratification from the West. Is this a signal now by saying that no matter how much noise you make and what narrative you want to push, I don't care. I will do what is right in my country, because that's exactly what you do. So don't try and lecture me going forward.
Exactly. Anand, you see, the West has not been able to get over the hangover of colonial domination. You know, the colonies may have sort of, they have given up the colonies, but the mindset they have not been able to give up. They clearly have two sets of laws: one for the so-called developed West, and another set of laws for the rest of the world. And this hypocrisy keeps coming out, showing its ugly face again and again and again. I mean, this is one of the examples. Is this new public order bill in Britain that's coming up? We have seen, and you just spoke about Canada. You've spoken about Germany. Now the thing is that we, just recall the stuff that had happened in the name of so-called quote-unquote farmers' protests in India. I mean, there were at least 3 major highways to the capital were blocked for not days, not weeks, not months, but a year. There were murders committed, while in the middle of the protest. There were rapes. There were gang rapes, and yet, one may say that the government exercised, admirable restraint. I say that the government exhibited condemnable restraint. When Red Fort, when an entire capital is, held hostage, police personnel were beaten up. Hundreds of police personnel were beaten up. Roughed up. I mean, then Red Fort was stormed. In spite of that, India should have actually, the Indian government should have laid down the law that you cannot do as you please in the name of protest just because you call yourself farmers. They were not farmers, they were thugs and goons. And actually, it was just middlemen of mainly one state protesting. If farmers actually across India, if small and marginal farmers who make up for 85% of the farming community, if they were really affected by the laws, then India would have come to a halt.
No, but
it was just
but wasn't it true?
From
no, but
one
Abhijit,
state,
sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just saying, I'm coming back to you only, and then I'll take this back to Aditya and to Shekhawat ji. The fact is that wasn't this because of international pressure? wasn't this entire long rope given to this bunch of hotheads and who are funded clearly politically and motivated only from one state of our country?
Yes, of
not,
course.
Not pan-India. But was it that not purely because to try and save the international narrative? Why wasn't it cracked down immediately? Imagine, not just that, Ludhiana and that entire sports goods industry, 28,000 crore in Haryana and that entire industrial belt, and these were all small and medium companies, SMEs.
Exactly. They were, massively affected, and we were also scared that they will build a narrative that the so-called Hindu majoritarian government is against Sikhs and all that. But India should actually not have cared, because the West always works as one when it comes to its interests abroad. There they forget all their differences, and the government, the media, even the church comes together to cause disturbance, to stop countries like India, China, and others to from coming up with developmental projects and projects like Kudankulam and
Right.
this Tuticorin Sterlite, this thing. Just,
Copper, yeah.
And you have seen that church NGOs are pressed into swing into service, into action. Even the UPA government of Manmohan Singh, who would seldom speak out. One of those rare occasions when he actually spoke out was after the Kudankulam protest, and he said that foreign NGOs are playing an extremely shadowy, sinister role. So the West, does what it must to stop others from developing. But when it comes to their own home, they apply the kind of pressure that needs to be applied.
That was a thing of the past. Now India doesn't need to subscribe to such narratives, Adit, and such kind of pressures. Is this also the West realizing that when the problem comes right into your own backyard, you realize it? दूसरे के वहाँ हो रहा तो ज्ञान देने में मजा आता है, and everybody tries to give this thing, but when it comes to you dealing with it, look at the kind of dimension of population, look at the infrastructure. These are all developed nations who should be able to handle such protests. But one road is blocked, their economy is choked, their prime minister has to run out of the capital and go into hiding because he's afraid for his security. That's what happened in Canada. We didn't have our prime minister running away. We didn't have our protesters running berserk. Yes, there was lawlessness in that area where they had blocked. And barring the Republic Day episode, largely what we said, and when that Republic Day episode happened, when Lal Killa happened, at that time they said, oh, it's all lawless in this one, and PM does not know how to run the country. They didn't say that about Canada. They didn't say that about, they're not saying that about the UK. Then how is this narrative swinging the other way? And other nations don't stand up and point out. How many nations are turning around and looking at the West and say, stop talking to us? How many African nations? How is the global bloc or the South bloc? How are they standing up and saying, stop lecturing us going forward if you do this? Adit, can you hear me?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead, please. Yes, you are. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Adit, go ahead, please. Okay, we just try and connect. Adit, can you hear me? I think he's not able to hear us. We can hear him. Yeah. Kuldeep Singh ji, do you want to take that?
Okay.
Yes. Honestly speaking, West has a habit of putting it out on us, saying we are the third world countries and they are the bosses. They are far superior to us. So that superiority complex of the West is always visible. And what they think is right. Saying India, well, India is a third world country and it doesn't stand. They don't know how to deal with the protesters. They don't know how to deal with the democratic part of the society. Only Britain knows. Only the West knows. Only Canada knows. Only America knows. But I'll be honest on that count now. they can keep their lecture to their own home, they can keep their lecture for their own crowd. India is far more superior democracy than what these countries are. Well, I was just watching another show one of these days, and the panelist asked a lot of students there in the panel saying, "Are you afraid in India?" Each and every student said no. They said no. Means the democracy is working in India and working beautifully. Now, in that case, West is scared. Like what this police powers given to the police now, the Metropolitan Police powers, with this bill will give lot of powers to police to seize, stop, search, and what happens then? The crowd in these cities, the people in these cities will be scared. They will be scared to even say the words they want to say to the government. See, there is a huge price rise in this country. There's a huge problem of power supply. There's a huge problem of fuel prices rising. There's inflation which is going.
So you're saying that
9%.
people will become suppressed now.
So,
if you suppress society, then there will be pressure, and kahin to ye pressure phutega, and when it does, then will there be a state of anarchy? That's another question. I thank all our panelists. Thank you very much. I got to wind this up, but we will take this discussion forward in the days to come, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us. Brass Tacks with Zaka.